Thousands have taken to the streets of Cuba in the largest mass demonstrations for over 25 years. Public protests on this scale are very rare in the communist-controlled state and reflect growing anger over hunger, high prices, and the government's handling of the pandemic. The US President Joe Biden called on the Cuban regime to listen to their people.
Libertad, the crowd in Havana shouts, or freedom. But while many Cubans feel this in their hearts, it's extremely rare for protesters to take to the streets to give vent to their anger in this one-party communist state.
We are here because of the repression against the people. They are starving us to death. Havana is collapsing. We have no house, we have nothing. But they have the money to build hotels, and they have us starving.
And shouting, down with the dictatorship, as many of the protesters did, can come with a heavy price. But a toxic cocktail of economic collapse, a faltering response to the pandemic, and lack of civil liberties has emboldened these people.
The legislation I signed relates to the compliance by maintaining our embargo.
Our government blames pretty much everything on the US embargo. They call it the blockade.
¿Es que lo queman mucho?
We get bored of hearing about the blockade all the time. But it's real. The United States has been waging war against Cuba for 60 years. It's not a war with bullets or bombs, but it touches every aspect of our lives. Recently, more than ever. It's the longest trade embargo in modern history. It isn't motivated by concerns about human rights. It's about money and power. Until 1959, Cuba was like a US colony. Our economy was controlled by US companies, corrupt politicians, and the mafia. After the revolution, Cuba nationalized the US companies. We claim our sovereignty, our right to govern ourselves. The government gave basic rights to the majority: women, black people, campesinos, the working class. The blockade was retaliation. It's basically a form of economic warfare. The blockade stops Cuba from doing business with the United States. They can't buy our stuff, and we can't buy theirs. And we can pay for things because banks won't lend us money or even let us open accounts. The blockade also stops Cuba from doing business with other countries. That's not all. The blockade also locks us out of a big part of the internet.
Let's see if he's who we think he is.
Support that's come from the American president too.
I don't think we've seen anything like this protest in a long, long time, if quite frankly ever. The United States stands firmly with the people of Cuba as they assert their universal rights, and we call on the government of Cuba to refrain from violence, their attempts to silence the voice of the people of Cuba.
This is being watched incredibly closely by the White House. Sanctions that were intensified in the Trump era have not been relaxed by Joe Biden. What needs to be weighed is whether this is just a spasmodic outburst or the start of a Cuban spring and something much more fundamental.
¿Acaso el gobierno de los Estados Unidos no tiene suficientes problemas que resolver para andar preocupándose por nosotros?
Some people say the blockade isn't a big deal, that our economic problems are only caused by our government or by socialism.
If that's true, ¿por qué no quitan el bloqueo?